These are serious Prevention of Corruption Act charges, and therefore Manish Sisodia could now have an extended term in prison.
First of all, Rajdeep, I speak here as a counsel for him. I'm not speaking politically at all. There are larger issues of the political system which can be discussed. But as far as your question is concerned, I don't think any such inevitability must be presumed. The court has only told us that the correct forum at the first stage is to go to the lower court. That's about it. There is no observation on the merits. There is no denial of bail, as is being repeatedly wrongly reported by the media, which somehow tends to take frequently a superficial view of court orders. It is that, and there is substance in that you cannot approach the Supreme Court straight away.
No, that's exactly. No, let's be very clear. You're blaming the media. The media is reporting that you went to the Supreme Court seeking relief for your client. The Supreme Court said, you don't come to us, go to the High Court. I mean,
that's right.
Clearly,
So
what the court was saying, that this was not a fit case to come at ab initio, at the initial stage, to the Supreme Court.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Rajdeep.
So that's a setback.
It's a denial. It's not a denial of merits. It is a decision that the correct forum, understandably, is the lower court. We also understand that it is in exceptional cases that the court can interfere, and they felt that this is not an exceptional case of the category which merits a direct intervention. So it was a decision on forum, where, not a decision on what. But to answer your larger question, I think you have the ladder from the trial court to the High Court, and there is no reason to suppose, if the merits of the case are strong, as we believe it is, that he should be denied bail indefinitely.
No, but why is it an exceptional case, given the fact that the CBI claims that they are building a chain linking Manish Sisodia as Deputy Chief Minister, policy decisions taken by his government, to alleged kickbacks that were received? Why should that be treated as an exceptional case? Should he not be able to first lay out a strong case to explain? The CBI says that they've got this link that they've established between retailers in Telangana and the Delhi government. Now,
you see, if you want to ask me the arguments raised, they are the following 6 arguments, which have a lot of merit, but they will be decided by a different court. The first is that there are judgments, like Vinod Dua's case, to an extent like Arnab Goswami's case, where direct interventions by the Supreme Court have been entertained. In particular, Vinod Dua's case. That was cited, that was read. But the court felt that it might open the floodgates if you start hearing every case directly in the Supreme Court. So there is a allowing to withdraw and go to the right forum. That's point one. On the merits, the arguments would be, as in when we go to the other forum, and we gave the flavor of that today in the court. Firstly, that this is a matter approximately August 22. He's been summoned twice in all. Both times he has gone there. The offence alleged is Section 7, which is less than 7 years. For less than 7 years, judgments of the Supreme Court say that unless it is shown by the arresting officer, the investigating officer, on paper, that it is imperative to arrest. Without arrest, investigation will be impeded. Arrest is not the option of first choice. It is the last resort which has to be demonstrated. There can be no reason to arrest a person after 8 months, will be the argument in the lower courts, because he cannot be a flight risk. He cannot be interfering with witnesses. All the evidence is documentary. He has cooperated going when he comes. And therefore, there is no reason why you should need to arrest him. You can interrogate him as many times as you like. The larger issue why this might be a special category case is, here is a person in public life. He's holding 18 portfolios. He's about to present the budget. The work of governance is impeded. And there is no reason demonstrated that you cannot do any investigation without arrest.
The CBI seems to suggest that A, he is non-cooperative, and B, that if he is allowed out, he could interfere possibly with the investigation, given the fact that he is such a high-profile individual.
Very important question. Just look at both your questions, and you will find the answers themselves, Rajdeep. You're an intelligent journalist, come person dealing with law, and you'll catch the answers immediately. First point, do you think that the meaning of interrogation is that I must go and admit my guilt? Is there a rule against self-incrimination? So if I go to you as investigating officer and you ask me questions and I say, look, I don't know or I don't want to answer, can you arrest me for that? That means that unless and until I admit my guilt, I'll be arrested. That is totally unknown to law, that rule. Second thing is, why should you need to at all arrest a person who has for now it's just say about almost just under a year, 10 months. There has been no evidence of interference with evidence with physical witnesses. Most of the evidence is documentary. After 10 months or 9 months in March of 2023, how can you possibly say that everything having been frozen, what can you interfere with? Everything is paperwork. So both those are fig leaves of arguments and they will be dealt with. Today, all that has happened is that the top court will not directly interfere. When we come up the ladder, I'm sure the top court, if necessary, will deal with it.
Therefore, let me ask you, Dr. Singhvi, you started off by saying that there are issues concerning the political system as well that perhaps also need to be looked at. And one of those issues allegedly is the fact that the process has become the punishment in this country, that particularly when you're an opposition leader, the ED and the CBI acts in a manner that makes you, in a way, go through an extended jail sentence. Are those arguments that can be made? That's whataboutery. That what about BJP leaders who get away and AAP or Congress leaders who suffer? You made a similar argument at the Raipur plenary. Does that argument hold? Misuse of agencies cannot be an argument to suggest that the individual is not culpable.
Not at all, Rajdeep, and I would appreciate if you give me a couple of minutes on a very important question you raised. It has nothing to do with Manish Sisodia. I made this point at the Raipur plenary in a speech in Hindi for almost 10 minutes. And I would like to explain this to you for your viewers to understand. It's a very nuanced and very important point. The point is this. 3 facts stand out from 2014. You have published it, newspapers have published it, there have been press conferences. Fact number 1, the total number of cases in sheer numbers where CBI and more importantly ED prosecution has been initiated has jumped 100 times. 90 times, 80 times. So if it's 10 before, it's 1,000 now, post 2015 or 14. Second, 95, if not 98% of that number, the 1,000 number or the 900 number, involves opposition leaders across the political spectrum. Fact number 3, in the rare cases where people who have been in the opposition and have switched and have had cases pending against them, but have switched sides, there is a whole list published by all of you in the journalist field. There has been the BJP laundering machine. Now, this is only fact. What is the legal conclusion from this, which is what I asked for at Raipur? And this has nothing to do with AAP or Party B. I said at Raipur that you will take time to come to a political coalition, which is ultimately the best way of dealing with Mr. Modi. And there has been now a call for a Congress-led coalition at Raipur. But before that, you should certainly have a legal coalition, which raises this issue before the court in a properly constituted petition that, look, if you add up these 3 facts, it amounts to creating a non-level, uneven, non-level playing field, which is skewed. And that affects democracy directly. If you start singling out in a discriminatory, selective manner only opposition leaders, that directly affects democracy. And if you affect democracy, you affect the basic structure.
That doesn't though in conclusion, Mr. Singhvi, affect the charge of corruption. My limited point and my final question to you therefore is, it's interesting. I know you've come here as Mr. Sisodia's lawyer, not as a congressperson, but the fact is your own party, particularly in Delhi, is saying that Mr. Sisodia is corrupt, that there is a scam in the liquor policy. So let's be very clear. The charges will have to be dealt with independently of what you say is the atmosphere which has been created of discriminatory treatment.
Rajdeep, you know very well that I am here speaking of something I said in Raipur 1 day before Sisodia was arrested. I am now saying something very different. I am saying that there is valid ground for a legal coalition of the top 10 parties going to the court and saying, look, and this is not about individuals, that if you find evidence of a skewed, discriminatory, selective application of the law against only opposition leaders, then you are skewing democracy itself.
No, but go to the Supreme Court and say that. Why don't you go to the Supreme Court and say that ED and CBI is being misused?
But that is the proposal I gave at Raipur. If you see my speech, it's in the public domain. That's exactly the proposal I've given at Raipur. That will happen in the due course of time. That is exactly the point I'm making.
You're giving us an important news point. You're saying that
Yeah.
you are proposing that the opposition parties now go to the Supreme Court and say
Right.
that the ED and the CBI are engaging in discriminatory treatment, therefore give us legal protection. Am I correct?
Let's get the facts clear, Rajdeep. I have saying this on Saturday, 2 days before, or 1 day before Sisodia's arrest. I'm not saying it today.
Okay.
Be it anything to do with AAP or Sisodia. See, this is a larger issue that whether the court should look at this phenomenon borne out by your statistics published among others in the Indian Express and elsewhere. We've had press conferences on that, which say that a coalition of the major, if not all, non-BJP, non-NDA parties should go to court. And I would be very happy to be tasked with drafting and putting that across to the court, for the reason that if you apply discriminatorily and selectively this agency set or this rule of various coercive laws against only opposition leaders, you cannot possibly have democracy. It is the antithesis of democracy. And that will affect the basic structure.
Okay, that's a very interesting argument that you're making, Dr. Singhvi.
In fact, I said jocularly at Raipur, Rajdeep, that while the political coalition may take some time to formulate, certainly this legal coalition should happen first. I said so publicly.
Let's leave it there. You've given us possibly what could happen in the future, that the opposition parties now possibly could go to the Supreme Court claiming that enforcement agencies are being misused and discriminatory treatment against them. We'll wait and see whether that flies with the court. But Dr. Singhvi, as always, sharp legal mind, analytical mind. Good to have you on the show. Thanks very much. Let's look, therefore, at the politics, though. Is this the end of the road for AAP? Can the AAP weather this corruption storm? What are the challenges that lie ahead of the Aam Aadmi Party? Joining me now, Yogendra Yadav, co-founder Swaraj India, once a founding member of the AAP. Harish Khurana is BJP spokesperson, and Saurabh Bharadwaj is AAP MLA and spokesperson. Let's turn to each of you to give us answers to that. I want to start with you, Yogendra Yadav. As a founding member today, do you believe that the AAP still has a future, given the number of their senior leaders who find themselves in the crosshair of the law for corruption charges?
Rajdeep, allow me to begin with something else. Allow me to first of all clarify that I'm not with Aam Aadmi Party. I'm no friend of Aam Aadmi Party. Number two, that my party, Swaraj India, was actually the first party in the city of Delhi to raise questions about the excise policy. Not today, not in 2021. Actually, way back in 2015 and 16, we had raised questions. And number three, I do believe that this is a serious case. It's a case that doesn't put Aam Aadmi Party in a great light. It's a case which deserves to. This is not figment of imagination. This looks like a serious case prima facie. Having said it, should I applaud, therefore, when Mr. Manish Sisodia is arrested? No, I can't, Rajdeep, because something much bigger is at stake, as came out from your conversation with Mr. Singhvi. What we are witnessing is one after another. If you have an opposition government, either they steal your MLAs away, or they put your key functionaries in jail on one pretext or the other, apply completely different standards in your case than in anyone else's case, and therefore make it virtually impossible for you to govern if you are in opposition. No Democrat can celebrate it. I don't think it's whataboutery, Rajdeep, to think about other cases in which such things have not been done. Because when you assess a situation like this, you say, okay, what are the norms? What should be the norms about arresting? And on that point, I happen to agree with Mr. Singhvi. He has a much better legal mind than I do. Unless you can say that this public functionary is destroying evidence, can destroy evidence, or is about to run away, why arrest? Build a case. This looks like prima facie a serious case. Build a case, take it to the court, get him convicted. That's all right, perfectly all right.
So
why this political drama?
So let me get it clear before I go to my other panelists. You're saying you believe prima facie this is a serious case. You believe that there is a prima facie case of corruption. You're only questioning the procedure adopted. Now the CBI will turn around and say, look, we are following the procedure. We've arrested him. We've gone to the court. We've sought custody. We are following procedure. You can't then turn around and say, oh, but what about the BJP leaders who have been allowed to get away?
Rajdeep, one, I did not say this looks like prima facie a corruption case. I'm not into prima facie judging it. I'm saying prima facie it looks like a serious case. And Aam Aadmi Party in this initial exchange doesn't come out looking very good. But let's not rush into these things. These are very serious charges. And a party that has come on the plank of anti-corruption should answer, and I'm sure my colleague Saurabh Bharadwaj sitting here will try to answer these questions. All I'm saying, but on the question of CBI, no, Rajdeep, I don't think this is the normal standard procedure. The normal standard procedure is that you ask someone questions, you investigate. If they don't, you proceed further. You finally take the case to the court and get the court to pass a judgment. Why arrest? Why do all this drama?
Okay.
All this drama, to my mind, is to distract the attention away from the biggest scam that this country has seen, which involves Mr. Adani, which involves direct connect to the Prime Minister of this country. This is what it is all about, and that's why I cannot celebrate it.
Interesting, you're saying this is a distraction, you believe, from the Adani issue. I'll come to that to Harish Khurana in a moment, but Saurabh Bharadwaj, let's be clear. When your number 2 in government gets arrested, when your number 3, if I may call Satyendra Jain, that gets arrested in the government, all on corruption charges, somewhere the sheen is gone. You all came to power as an anti-corruption force. Like it or not, this has been a huge reputation hit.
Rajdeep, I'm not into politics for long. I've been in politics for like 11 years. And believe me, in 2013, in 2014, in 2015, and many more years, we have had similar occasions when we thought that now probably the party may be over. Probably our careers in politics are done. And a lot of political analysts also thought so. But what I've seen in my experience is that whenever Aam Aadmi Party has faced such attacks, we have come out stronger out of it. And I believe that we will rebound. And Rajdeep, it's a small world. Everybody is watching India and they can see that, there is a central government and there is a small party which is governing a city-state called Delhi. And two of its ministers, Satyendra Jain and Manish Sisodia ji, they have been known for their works in health and education. These are the two main planks of Arvind Kejriwal's model of governance.
But that cannot be a defense.
No, what I'm
you see
saying
that
is,
if Manish Sisodia has done good work in education,
I'm not saying
that cannot be a defense.
Rajdeep,
You're going to have to answer the specific charges in this case.
No, Rajdeep, I'm not taking a defense. What I'm saying is that the whole world is watching. That you have two ministers who are known across the world for their work in education and health, and the central government ruled by Mr. Modi is targeting these two ministers. And these two specific ministers have been put behind the bars. So people are watching it, and it's a matter of shame for the government of India that everybody is closely watching all these developments in India, and this doesn't build any reputation for us. All the opposition ruled states are being disturbed by the governors or the agencies. These bring a lot of instability in the states. And if the states are unstable, do you think the government is stable? The country's outlook is stable? Then you talk about investments, then you talk about economy. When the central government itself is trying to destabilize the states, how do you see a growth in a country? You will not get any growth. You will not see any stability.
Okay,
so this is very unfortunate situation. That just for small political gains, the central government is hell-bound to destroy all the opposition.
You're in a way.
Sad.
Okay, Harish Khurana, you're hearing words like destabilize, distract. That actually the BJP wants to use the Aam Aadmi Party to distract from what the opposition saying is the real story to follow Adani's story. We've also given a list yesterday which has now gone viral on Twitter, where we gave a list of all the BJP leaders who somehow seem to have escaped the ED CBI scanner the moment they switch sides. So, there are serious questions that Harish Khurana, while you are smiling, you will have to answer. At some stage, do you go along with that there is a distraction, an attempt to destabilize?
Rajdeep, I might be listening to my future minister of Delhi, Mr. Saurabh Bhardwaj, who might be a minister in waiting. I understand his problem. He's batting on a weak pitch, so he might be defending a wrong person right now. He said he's in politics since last 2013. I am taking back to him to 2013 only. You know what they used to say? No, P. Chidambaram, Sheila Dikshit, Nitin Gadkari, no, they are corrupt ministers. We will not buy these. We don't want any proof. They have to go, they have to resign first and then to face the music and then to go to the court. Now what happened now? Satendra Jain, who's in jail since last 8 months on the order of court, not by order of any ED or any CBI. He's in jail since on the order of the court right now. Vijay Nair, their close associate, the close aide of them, is in jail and rejected 4 times his bail. He's in jail since last few months, and 4 times his bail has been rejected. So, is it a CBI or ED vendetta? No. I think they are legally and morally both are down right now. Morally, because since last 8 months, their minister is in jail. They are not taking any action. 2013, they used to say, we are the Kattar Imandar log. So, their morality has gone for a toss. In Punjab also we have seen that.
So you're saying, you don't agree that the rules are different? You refuse to accept that the rules are different in this country now for BJP leaders who've had to face ED and CBI charges that are put on the back burner.
Rajdeep, I'll rebut on this. I'll give me 10 seconds. Rajdeep, you are a seasoned journalist. Since 2004 to 14, Manmohan Singh was the government in the center. And what CBI used to say, he said, Tota, how many cases on BJP was been impound? Tell me, kitne inquiries hui thi wahan pe? I don't think so, many of them. 2014 to 2000 till date, if you have any problem, I was listening to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, he's very cleverly says, I am over here for legal issues, but he talked about politically. How many cases he has filed a PIL on BJP leaders that ED is not taking an action? Let's intervene the court intervention. I think none of them. Or if they have won, we have seen what has happened in a court. My point is, they very easily finger point on ED and CBI, but on a legal battlegrounds, they always either don't appear or they fail.
Okay, so you're saying that if the opposition believes that there are BJP leaders getting away in similar cases, go and file a PIL before the court. Saurabh Bhardwaj, before we come to Yogendra Yadav, just let's get clarity. Let's get clarity. It's taken 8 months to get Satendra Jain's resignation. Today you've taken Manish Sisodia's resignation. The belief is that the Aam Aadmi Party now first needs to do crisis management before it expands across the country. You're going to have to first get your reputation back. Do you concede that at some stage, all of what has happened is a setback?
Rajdeep, believe me or not, we have been getting a lot of feedback from the ground. We sit in our offices where we talk to lots of people. And, we are not the kinds of politicians with whom, people are afraid to tell the truth. They keep sending us texts, they keep sending us WhatsApp, and we see Twitter and everything. I think people can see that the way the central government is targeting Aam Aadmi Party, central government is very serious about Aam Aadmi Party's growth in India. They do understand that Aam Aadmi Party is growing at a faster speed possible. We have governments at 2 states. We have MLAs in Gujarat. We have MLAs in Goa. We are getting councillors, mayors across the country. So I think BJP as a party is nervous of the rise of Arvind Kejriwal.
You're
in
saying...
our recent, polls which are being done by our TV channels, we have seen that in terms of opposition leaders, Arvind Kejriwal is one of the most popular leaders in the opposition. So the kind of energy the central government and its agencies are spending on Aam Aadmi Party, it makes all the anti-BJP people think that yes, here's the contender. Here's the challenger, Arvind Kejriwal, who is challenging Mr. Modi, and probably this will help us crystallize the support for Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party. And believe me, we will come out very strong out of it.
You're claiming that the BJP is targeting you because your popularity, you claim, has increased. But Yogendra Yadav, it's very interesting that we are seeing now. No, just a minute. We are seeing that even the Congress has at least at the Delhi level, questioned the Aam Aadmi Party, claiming that there is corruption in the Delhi liquor policy. Do you believe, and perhaps you can wear your political hat here, not just as Swaraj India, but as someone who's observed politics, do you believe that a movement that starts from anti-corruption, when it gets tangled in corruption charges, the halo is gone, and therefore Arvind Kejriwal now is seen as just another politician?
Rajdeep, it all depends on whether it's the Aam Aadmi Party that finally gets tainted or it's the CBI that finally gets tainted. We still don't know yet. We need to wait and watch. And just as I worried in what I said earlier, worried as a Democrat, as someone who supports federalism, I worry about what kind of things are being done. I also worry about something else, because both the things that you said might be true. It might be true, as I said, it is a serious case. It's not a figment of imagination. There is a chief secretary's report. There is a lot of documentation. There is something to be answered. But it is also true, and Saurabh Bharadwaj is correct, that in wider public perception, ये सब CBI का खेल है, तो हमेशा ही ऐसा करते हैं. The real fear that I have as a citizen of this country is that the manner in which CBI and other investigative agencies are being used, more so by this regime than by the previous one, no one would trust any investigation ever. Nothing is serious. That is the question that we should be asking. My BJP friend just said, that actually no such case has happened. You've already given a list. Can I add a small item to that list? There is a report done by Reporters Collective that came just 2 days ago. What does that report show? That report shows with CAG documents. These are not just reporters making allegations. This is the Comptroller and Auditor General of India's findings, which have been suppressed, which shows that the Modi government, after they came to power, were involved in the same kind of discretionary and corrupt allotment of coal mine blocks. In this case, to a group called RP Goenka Group, which the CAG objected to. Yet all these things were bypassed. All these things were done. Now, would we expect a CBI investigation into that? Would we expect CBI calling these people, checking it out? And Rajdeep, allow me to say, do we expect the CBI to interrogate the SEBI chief, the SBI chief, and the LIC chief for their role in the Adani scam?
You want to finally answer that, Harish Khurana? I know you've been dying to jump in. The fact is, na khaunga na khane duga was what the Prime Minister promised 2014 August. No. Na khaunga na khane duga only operates for the opposition?
No, Rajdeep, before.
No, answer that. No, forget
Rajdeep,
before. Answer that. Answer that. Direct question. Direct question.
Rajdeep, listen to me out. Rajdeep, listen to me out. Listen me out first. Please, you have not intervened anybody else. At least I expect not to intervene me also, boss. See, I want to revert first to my minister in waiting, my friend Mr. Saurabh Bharadwaj. He's saying we are nervous, BJP is nervous. A party who have no seats in Lok Sabha, I will call it a Manohar Kahaniya. In the phrases Manohar Kahaniya. We are expecting 272 seats and making him as a future Shiksha Mantri of India. You need to have 272 seats. If you have a thing in Punjab and Delhi, both the numbers we calculate, the total stake of Aam Aadmi Party is just 20 seats. Out of 272, you need to have 272 seats. So when you say that BJP is afraid, these were same rhetoric which have been repeated in Gujarat election. You remember when Vijay Nair was arrested, BJP घबरा गई है. What has happened? BJP got 153 seats, and you got only. I still remember Arvind Kejriwal was giving in writing. मैं writing में देता हूँ. 5 seats will be.
ना खाऊंगा ना खाने दूंगा.
And
sir, ना खाऊंगा ना खाने दूंगा.
Majority. You remember?
Can you give me an assurance that the CBI, can you give me an assurance that the CBI, the SEBI are independent institutions? No, you haven't answered that. We still don't know. According to the opposition,
yes,
all of this is being used as a distraction from the Adani case.
Rajdeep, hear me out. First of all, Adani case is already in the court. Point number 1. Point number 2, whatever the allegation Yogendra Yadav is making, Yogendra Yadav is a learned gentleman. Why, आप court पे चले जाओ ना यार. अगर आपके पास you have a proof, you believe in courts ना. file a PI in a court that these are proof. Let's have a SIT. Let's have a court intervention SIT over there.
Okay.
Why are you doing that? They will not do that because they don't have a substance. We have seen one of the case in Rafael. What has happened? चौकीदार चोर है क्या हुआ अंत में माफी मांगनी पड़ी ना they have to feel sorry about that what they have said point is they are just making a baseless allegation without the evidence what the substance they have
Okay,
they don't have any substance they want to allegate कि मैं बस एक narrative set करना है
Okay, you're saying
they failed
you made your point. You're claiming that Yogendra Yadav ji, please go to court. Is the message from
So
the BJP?
they have the CBI and the opposition has one possibility of going to the court to appeal to please institute an SIT. Wonderful. I get the logic.
Okay. I think we get the logic as well. Clearly, though, for now it's the Aam
don't have a
Aadmi.
substance,
For
na?
now, it's the Aam Aadmi
have
party.
you got a substance
Okay, no,
just making an allegation I'll
Okay.
make an allegation Yogendra Yadav चोर है will it make a sense no I think no Yogendra Yadav we need to prove it कि yes these are substance at least we should understand before aliegating somebody.
Harish Khurana, you're on a roll. Harish Khurana, Saurabh Bhardwaj, and Yogendra Yadav, and earlier Abhishek, Manu, Singhvi. Clearly, there are lots of issues tangled in here. And because we are building up to 2024, it would be unfortunate if investigations get tangled in politics. We want corruption to be removed, but corruption must be done in a manner that ensures that everyone, irrespective of political affiliations, are prosecuted as per due process. The process must not become the punishment. Thank you all very much for joining me. Let's turn from there to another case which is making the headlines from the Supreme Court. Only yesterday, the Supreme Court dismissed BJP leader Ashwini Upadhyay's petition to rename cities and historical monuments that were named after invaders. But the two-judge Supreme Court bench which struck down the petition also made certain important observations about how renaming could only fan communal disharmony at times. What does this mean to renaming cities? Take a look.
Aurangabad to become Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. Osmanabad becomes Dharashiv. Allahabad renamed as Prayagraj. And there are calls to rename Hyderabad as Bhagyanagar. In the past few years, many cities have got new identities, and there is a clamour for many more name changes. Now the top court of India has come down heavily on one such petition for renaming cities. The Supreme Court on Monday rejected a public interest litigation by Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay, a BJP leader, seeking new names for all cities and historical sites named after who he called barbaric invaders. During the hearing, two-judge bench of Justice K.M. Joseph and Justice B.V. Nagaratna made several observations. Justice Joseph said the plea is aimed at a particular community. He highlighted how digging up the past can lead to communal disharmony in the society. The justice asked the petitioner if he wanted to keep the country on the boil. Justice Joseph described Hinduism as the greatest religion in terms of metaphysics, adding, "Do not belittle it." The justice said he is a Christian, but he is equally fond of Hinduism and has tried to study it. Justice Joseph pointed out that religious worship has nothing to do with roads. Justice B.V. Nagaratna made several observations on Hinduism and its essence. She said Hinduism is a way of life, because of which India has assimilated everybody. Hinduism does not allow bigotry, she added. Justice Nagaratna asked the petitioner not to bring back the divide and rule policy of the British with such petitions. She said historical facts cannot be wished away and that the country has many other problems to address. The court stressed that India is wedded to rule of law, secularism and constitutionalism and cannot be a prisoner of the past.
भगवान कृष्ण ने सोनप्रस्थ मांगा था, वो सोनीपत हो गया। इंद्रप्रस्थ मांगा था, दिल्ली हो गया। पानप्रस्थ मांगा था, वो पानीपत हो गया।
The petitioner has also wanted the Archaeological Survey of India list all historical sites named after settlers.
ऐसे वो स्थान जिनका वर्णन कहीं न कहीं वेद पुराण में है, कहीं न कहीं गीता रामायण में है, उन स्थानों का नाम बदला जा चुका है। हम आज़ादी की 75वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहे हैं, तो हमें ये अधिकार है कि हमारे कम से कम जिन स्थानों का वर्णन वेद पुराण में है उनका पुनः नामकरण किया जाए। सेकुलरिज्म का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि हमारे जो धार्मिक स्थान है, जो ऐतिहासिक स्थान है, जो सांस्कृतिक स्थान है, वो आक्रांताओं के नाम पे चले।
The Supreme Court bench of Justices K.M. Joseph and B.V. Nagaratna, while dismissing the PIL by Ashwini Kumar Upadhyay, said that no nation should be allowed to become a prisoner of its own past. The bench in its order stated that the history of no nation should impact its current and future generations to such an extent that the succeeding generations become a prisoner of the country's own past. In its order, the bench also spoke extensively about the concept of fraternity and how a true sense of brotherhood and a true sense of secularity can only be achieved when different sections of the society come together in true harmony. In New Delhi, this is Nalini Sharma for India Today.
Interesting court verdict. Let's take a break at this point. When we return, we are turning to our campaign for justice. For a young woman who lost her mother, a college principal was burnt to death by a former student. We'll be speaking to the family up next. You're watching the news today.
I think there's an opportunity for India particularly to work with the United States and others.
India is has the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world.
I thought if it's blowing in the wind, it's best I'm on the motorcycle. And I did 15,000 kilometers in 36 days.
The rich countries have a particular obligation to exercise their investment in innovation.
I believe that global business has the money and the power.
Improvements in the way we understand the importance of education and healthcare.
You have a greater chance of killing yourself than of being killed by any soldier or terrorist or criminal.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
You think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories. From every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Tonight's Get Real India story is part of our campaign of justice for a story that has shocked the nation. After a college principal was burnt to death by a former student over a delay in getting a mark sheet. We had highlighted the story yesterday of how Ashutosh Srivastav set Professor Vimukti Sharma on fire by pouring petrol on her last week. A week later, while the student has been arrested under the stringent National Security Act, the family is demanding fast-track justice and insisting that the police inaction led to the tragic incident which they insist could have been prevented. Earlier today, I spoke to the daughter of the principal. Listen in to Devanshi as she spoke to me of exactly why they want justice above all else now. Listen in. And joining me now is Devanshi Sharma, daughter of Dr. Vimukta Sharma, principal of the BM College of Pharmacy near Indore. Remember, it was her mother, the principal of that college, who was tragically burned to death, set ablaze by her own student, who's now, of course, in police custody in jail. But Devanshi wants more. First of all, Devanshi, my deep, deep condolences for what happened. I know it's only 8 days since this has happened, but the sheer horror of it, I can tell you, has shocked and outraged all of us. So all our sympathies with you above all else, ma'am.
Thank you for that.
Devanshi, you sent me a WhatsApp message yesterday saying that you wanted the media to take up the case to ensure fast-track justice. What exactly are you looking for now that the person involved has been arrested?
Right. So, the last 5 to 6 days when my mother was in the hospital, I got a chance to speak to her once, and she multiple times said, I want to survive, I want to live, I want to be here. Unfortunately, 90% burn was way too much for her to be with us, and therefore she's no more. I've seen her in pain, in so much trauma, and I have seen her suffer in those 5 days, mentally as well as physically. I think anything less than hanging that person or, giving him the highest order of punishment would be less. I demand a fast track court proceeding in which the accused should be hanged to death, and every person in the system who knew about it when my mother was writing requests, asking for police protection, asking for help, and the action was not taken. I also want action against all of them. I also want action against them who, when my mother was pleading for help, they did not help her at all.
Let me understand this. You are saying that you have no faith in the police system, in the criminal justice system, because the fact is that the concerned officers who apparently did not heed your mother's complaint, they've been transferred out. Action is going to be taken, say the local police, against them. Don't you have any faith in the system? Do you believe that somehow this person could still get away?
So, when in the earlier requests and FIRs that were done against the accused, he was threatening my mother. He was sending messages that were life-threatening, on which there was an avedan that was given to the police. The last sentence says clearly that she wanted police protection. Neither was the accused taken into custody, nor was any protection given to my mother, result of which is what has happened today. So there has been some action that has been taken against the person who was involved in it from the police side, but till this accused is hanged till death, I think I would not feel that the justice has been served to my mother.
But we are finding that this case has struck a chord with a lot of people in Indore. There have been protests over it. It's also getting a political angle. This is an election here in Madhya Pradesh. We are hearing politicians expressing their grief. What would you like to tell the netas who are also now sort of expressing their solidarity? Do you want to keep politics completely out of this? You just want justice above all else. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. I have lost my mother. There is hopelessness and helplessness that I am going through right now. I don't want anything to be politicized. All I am begging for and all I am asking for is justice for my mother at the earliest. Because the way she has been serving in the education sector, we say Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, and then this has happened to her. I absolutely just want justice regardless any politics that is surrounding this. All I am requesting and all I want and all that my family is wanting is justice for my mother.
A daughter's cry for justice. Hopefully, there will be swift and sure action in this case. Let me leave you with our good news today's story, and it comes from an image. A quite remarkable match took place in New Zealand, where New Zealand created a slice of history as they beat England by just 1 run at Wellington in the second test match. This is only the 4th time in the history of a sport that a team has managed to win the match after following on, and only the 2nd time that a team has won by just 1 run. That was the dramatic moment when Neil Wagner got James Anderson out caught behind, leading to a victory by just 1 run. That's why they call it Test cricket. Great fun to watch that. Stay well, stay safe. Remember, cricket and music are the 2 stress busters in the times in which we live. Bye for now.
What a stunning test match! Unbelievable! Anderson can't believe it. The actor save for New Zealand. The disappointment for England. It's Wagner. He's done it. What a remarkable game of test match cricket.
Wali painting, a mural art form of Maharashtra, gives Aurangabad a facelift ahead of a G20 inception meeting. A group of 120 women painted non-stop for 6 hours to complete the artwork.
वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट शो करते हुए हम लोग ये जो प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं वारली का, वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट वारली पेंटिंग जो है, जिसका रिकॉर्ड पहले पूना में था, उसको पूना के रिकॉर्ड को ब्रेक करते हुए, उसको चैलेंज करते हुए आज हम सब लड़कियां, वी आर 120 लेडीज हियर वर्किंग फॉर दिस वारली पेंटिंग टुडे. और इसका सबसे बड़ा क्रेडिट जो जाता है, जो मेरी बहुत अच्छी फ्रेंड है, वो है नंदिनी घोडेले. ये कॉन्सेप्ट जो जहाँ से आई है, वो लड़की ने सर 21 इयर्स की लड़की है. दिस इज रियली अ मोटिवेशन टू ऑल द गर्ल्स ओवर हियर.
The work spread over 3,200 square feet will enter the India Book of Records 2024 in the social and cultural category. This painting breaks the earlier record of 3,050 square feet set by artists in Pune.
I congratulate all the dignitaries, those who have taken efforts, जिन्होंने इस इवेंट को एक सक्सेसफुल बनाया है, एंड कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस टू औरंगाबाद म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन.
There were no professional artists among the 120 participants. They came from different professions like medicine, accountancy, and engineering. Bureau Report, India Today.
integration of Air India and Vistara needs to go through a regulatory approval process. There are 3 steps to that process. One is competition clearance. The second is from a DGCA regulatory aviation perspective. And the third is obviously the merger of the 2 companies. We are in the process of the first phase, seeking competition clearance. But in anticipation of this, we are working together with some external parties to work on what are the areas of opportunity in an integrated business, what are the things that we need to focus on in the process of that integration, and what would the end state look like once we have received clearance to actually embark on the integration process. The intention is to end up with one full-service airline and one low-cost airline in the group. The full-service airline will be an amalgam of Air India and Vistara, but we expect that many of the practices and systems will be those of Vistara, being a younger, privatized airline that has been able to imbibe the learnings that it brings from its other shareholders. We are not unaware of what they have in terms of systems and processes. And so over the course of the privatization process and the last year, a lot of the transformation that we've been doing at Air India has been with a view to put ourselves on a similar platform as Vistara, so that in the event the merger is approved, it's a much more seamless and faster process. I think there are certainly there's a desire to carry forward the heritage of both erstwhile Air India and Vistara into the new Air India. Quite the form in which that Vistara component takes, we're still working through. Vistara clearly has achieved a lot of success and very strong recognition and respect in the Indian market. But if you look outside the Indian market, clearly Air India is much more recognized and has a 90-year history. So we've communicated to staff that the future full-service carrier will be called Air India, but we would like to retain and celebrate some of the Vistara heritage in that new manifestation.
Tragedies can either break you or make you. And this story from Naxal hit Gadchiroli will inspire you in many ways. Bharati Bogami was just 17 when her father, the Sarpanch of Lahiri village, was shot dead by Naxals in 2002. A brain tumor survivor, she faced several financial problems and yet continued her struggle to become a doctor. She now serves in the same area where her father was killed.
मैं सोच रही थी अब तो पापा चले गए, आज ये सब होने के बाद अगर यही मेरा फ्यूचर.
Co-powered by Get quick loans from Tata Capital. Volkswagen Verter.
In a word, no.
Viral professor back in India. Babonas drops another bombshell. Surgical strike on VDEM democracy report. Flawed practices behind low democracy rating. Salvatore Babonas, live and exclusive on India First.
A University of Sydney professor and American sociologist, Professor Salvatore Babonas, has exposed major shortcomings in Sweden's varieties of democracies or VDEM ratings. Professor Babonas, in a paper accessed exclusively by India Today, has not only decimated the latest VDEM ratings of 2022 that placed the Indian democracy in the 100th position as against 65th in 2014. But he has also questioned the methodology adopted by the VDEM Institute of Sweden. Professor Bebonis joins me on India Today for an India First special broadcast. But first, we bring you some of the bizarre findings of the report. Varieties of democracies rankings are flawed, asserts a Sydney University professor after a detailed analysis of the VDEM 2022 report that claimed India had fallen to the 100th position as a democracy. Professor Salvatore Bebonis insists that there are very serious methodology flaws that lead to mischaracterization of democracies in this report.
It's what democracy really should be all about. Now, this report's being released March 1st as a launch report for the Indian Century Roundtable think tank. I hope you'll read it and take a look at it. It is a much more technical, statistical, methodological investigation of the most important of the three rankings, the VDEM rankings. It's not all based on an analysis of the text involved in describing the rankings. It is an analysis of the rankings themselves and of the statistical methodology behind it.
The American sociologist working at the Sydney University carried out a detailed analysis of the Varieties of Democracies Report 2022 brought out by the VDEM Institute in Sweden. The professor has faulted the report both on its objective and subjective sub-indices.
The result of these methodological quirks, almost all of the analytical power, the discretionary power in the VDEM rankings comes from two completely subjective sub-indices, that is from the freedom of association and freedom of expression sub-indices. Here there's a lot more room for interpretation. It seems to me highly unlikely that we can take these subjective measures at face value. The result of all of this is that India, in effect, gets no credit for having an objective democracy, that is a place where people can vote in genuine elections.
The VDEM Electoral Democracy Index, published in March by Sweden's Varieties of Democracies Institute in its 2022 report, based on the data of 2021, saw India fall to the 100th position as against the 65th position in 2014. But Professor Bebonis argues that the report suffers from serious flaws, giving a perfect score on the sub-index of elected officials to countries like Libya, Cuba, Belarus, Russia, Syria and Vietnam. Among the 174 countries given a perfect score for universal suffrage, China, Hong Kong, Iran, North Korea, Myanmar, Palestine and Venezuela score higher than genuine democracies. Professor Bebonis says the methodology in these ratings is so flawed that according to these rankings, India's electoral system between 2019 and 21 was less free and fair compared to the height of emergency in 1976, when elections were suspended and more than 100,000 political opponents were imprisoned without trial. VDEM ratings are unable to differentiate between real and sham democracies, he insists.
The VDEM rankings, it turns out, have very serious methodological flaws that lead it to mischaracterize not only Indian democracy, but many democracies around the world. The VDEM rankings include 5 sub-indices of electoral democracy that don't really differentiate in many cases between sham democracies or even complete non-democracies like China, North Korea, and Cuba, and genuine democracies like India.
The study has also questioned the subjective aspect of the ratings, where India is ranked 119th in the freedom of expression, thereby indicating censorship in India like in Iran. Bureau Report, India Today. And Professor Bebonis now joins me in our studio. Sir, welcome on India Today.
Pleasure to be here.
Before I come to the specific aspect of India, when we talk about this VDEM report that gives a perfect score to countries like Belarus, Cuba, Libya and Syria on the issue of elected officials, what do you make of these findings?
134 countries in the world get a perfect score on the two objective sub-indices of the Rise of Democracy Institute rankings. These are elected officials and universal suffrage. Interestingly, India is not among the countries that gets a perfect objective score because until recently, 2 members of the Lok Sabha were appointed to represent the Anglo-Indian community, meaning that India fell short of China on the metric of elected officials because they're simply asking, do the constitutions say that everyone should be elected? They're not asking about the quality of those elections.
Bizarre. Then let me come to the second aspect. Among 174 countries, those given a perfect score for universal suffrage include countries like China, Hong Kong, after the Chinese takeover, Iran and North Korea. Why would anyone take the VDM rating seriously?
Well, VDM actually says that they are not taking into account the quality of elections. They explicitly say sham democracies might be included among those rated as perfect democracies on these objective indicators. Now, they do differentiate between countries on the subjective indicators, but right off the bat, countries that are communist dictatorships, Vietnam, for example, starts out with a perfect score on 2 out of the 5 sub-indices, and that's what India's got to make up. That is, it has to make up with the quality of its democracy for the fact that Vietnam is beating India already when it comes to the 2 objective components of VDM.
And if we were to specifically talk about India now, on clean elections,
yes.
India down to 91 in 2021 from 59 in 2014. This, when not even opposition in India questions the fairness of elections.
Oh, it's worse than that. India's 91. Hong Kong, occupied by China under the China security law, is rated 71 in the world. Hong Kong's elections are rated 20 ranks above India's for being free and fair elections. Now, that's not because of some subjective opinion. We talked last time about India's intellectuals. This isn't because of that. This is because of the very design of the rankings. When they define free and fair elections, they're asking questions like, is there vote buying? Is the voter registry complete? Is there violence at the polls? Are there polling irregularities? Now in Hong Kong, they get a perfect score for all of these. Of course there are no irregularities at the polls. You can only vote for one person.
Yes.
So why would you have any violence at the polls when there's no opposition at the polls? So bizarrely, Hong Kong's elections are voted freer and fairer than India's by VDM, 20 ranks higher on free and fair elections because they're not differentiating between these kind of sham elections with one candidate and an election that's truly competitive. In fact, in a country like India, where the elections are competitive, maybe at the margins there is a little bit of vote buying. I don't endorse that. VDM doesn't endorse that. No one endorses vote buying. But no one buys votes in Hong Kong because you have no choice who to vote for.
Yeah. Let me then come to one more aspect, and that is the issue of freedom of association. If we were to talk about freedom of association, India, as per these latest rankings of VDM, is ranked at 114 in 2021 in this report that came out in 2022, down from 92 in 2014. Does this, in your appreciation, Professor, reflect the bias of those who are writing this report, or is their methodology flawed?
Well, first of all, I'm suspicious of biases when Vietnam shows having higher freedom of association than India. When, again, it's a one-party communist dictatorship. But let's leave that aside and look at the methodology, because that's really what this report is about. When freedom of association is measured, we have multiple questions about can NGOs operate in the country. There's only one question about can you form a political party? Now, you think at the heart of democracy would be, can you have an opposition political party? But on the 5 major sub-indices of the VDM rankings, only one, freedom of association, concerns itself with can you form a political party. And even then, it's only one of the sub-indices of that, which means that can you form an NGO is actually more important for these rankings than can you have an opposition political party. On top of that, even on that one question, which should be central to democracy, can you oppose the government? Can you have an opposition political party? Even India doesn't get a perfect score there. Why? India bans the CPIM.
So the fact that
CPI-ML.
yes, okay.
You're absolutely right.
So the fact that India bans a small number of terrorist-linked parties is equated with Vietnam and Hong Kong banning all opposition parties. They result in nearly the same points reduction for these two actions.
Which is one, disturbing. Two, if the methodology is flawed, the outcome would be flawed.
So this is by design. These are not problems of expert evaluations. These are not problems of interpretation. This is the design of the index. The index has very poor measurement qualities. Yes, it has a lot of questions that, if you look at them individually, seem to have to do with democracy. But when you add up the sum total, and you find out that the only real differentiation being made between a one-party communist dictatorship and a truly competitive electoral system, the only distinction being made is on one question on one sub-index. And even there, the fact that certain political parties are banned is equated with you cannot have any opposition whatsoever. That shows that by design, VDEM is significantly flawed. And that's not only flawed for India. I wouldn't take any of the ratings in VDEM seriously. I mean, I'm American. My own country is rated below Argentina for the quality of its democracy. Now, I don't take that very seriously, but nonetheless, that's the result of the idiosyncratic measurement choices being made by the designers of this index.
You know, so maybe in America can get away because of its economic power, its political power. Maybe they can get away and say that we don't take these ratings seriously. But for an emerging economy, of course, the world's fifth largest economy, India, can these ratings be damaging?
It's a serious problem because the rest of the world only knows about India what they hear from the likes of VDEM. The rest of the world doesn't have strong knowledge of what's actually happening in India. If you hear from VDEM that Indian democracy has fallen to the level of Hong Kong or Vietnam, why should you doubt that if you're somewhere in the rest of the world? On top of that, because VDEM is so methodologically sophisticated, highly flawed, but very sophisticated, it's embedded in all sorts of other rankings. The Cato Institute rankings use it. U.S. Agency for International Development uses it. The World Bank uses it. That is, when other people are looking for an authoritative gauge of a country's institutions, they go to VDEM.
In fact, that's the point I was coming to. But let's for a moment talk about freedom of expression. India has a huge media footprint. We have a very large number of television channels and across the country, multiple states, large TV, radio, newspapers, digital, online, social media, broadcasting across the country and to the world. Media is vibrant, vocal opposition, assertive judiciary. What, in your view, then, would explain India at 119 in 2021 against 61 in 2014.
Well, and currently rated on a par with Iran for media freedom, which of course is bizarre. But this is a result of the problems we already knew about VDEM, that its subjective components, the 2/3 of VDEM that's subjective, that is all based on expert evaluations. And so India's own intellectuals are rating India's own journalists are rating India as having the press freedom of a country like Iran. That subjectivity is baked in. This new paper, though, is really all about the fact that even if we accept that there are problems with this subjectivity, even the objective components of VDEM are so badly designed that they don't differentiate between a vibrant democracy and a one-party communist dictatorship.
And that should be alarming because ratings like VDEM, as you point out, it fails to differentiate between a real democracy and a sham democracy. But I want to come back to that question. Would this not adversely impact India's standing and ratings globally?
So first, that word sham democracy is not just my word, it's their word. I mean, I can read from them that on 1/5 of the ranking, our officials elected, quote, a popular election is minimally defined and also includes sham elections with limited suffrage or no competition. This is baked right into the rankings. Now, of course, when other people use these rankings, they don't question the methodology. Look, even I didn't question the methodology, and this is my own area of academic expertise, is international rankings. I had taken this at face value until I started unpacking and trying to ask, why did India score so low on these rankings? Not just attributing it to the answers intellectuals gave, but asking, what are the nuts and bolts of it? Even I hadn't looked into it. So the idea that other people would look into it, that journalists, that fund managers, that people use these rankings as governance indicators, that the idea that they would somehow read the whole report and come to their own conclusion is ridiculous. Of course, they read the overall press release, they get the number at the top line number. The top line number is number 100 in the world, and they discount India's democracy on account. And that's not 100th among democracy, that's 100th total. Remember, most countries in the world today don't even have real elections. India ranks worse than places like Ivory Coast, which are one-party dictatorships where the opposition leaders have been sent into exile. I mean, it's really incredible. But it rates worse because the problems with measurement are baked right into the methodology. It's not just about it's not just about India's experts giving India low scores. It's that too, but it's also fundamental flaws in the methodology.
And in your view, so, we've spoken about the objective part where you've questioned the methodology, but on the subjective part, where personal biases or influences or what's written perhaps in op-eds, not just in India, but also overseas, does that impact the overall ratings of a country, outlook towards a country, and should that not be corrected?
So absolutely that's a problem. Of the 5 major components of VDEM, 2 are purely objective, 1 is kind of a mix, and 2 are purely subjective. Now, on the objective ones, like I said, we had this problem that India is rated the same or even slightly lower than one-party dictatorships like Vietnam and China. On the mixed ones, we have the problem that, again, they don't properly differentiate between truly free elections and single-party elections. Now, at the heart of democracy is competition. There's nothing, and I emphasize this, nothing in the VDEM rankings that actually measures the degree of competition and the degree of choice that voters have. Okay. On the subjective side, of course, India gets savaged. And that's where I've said before that it's India's intellectuals who are responsible for the anti-India bent of these rankings, because they're the ones savaging India on the subjective components. But I want to stress, even if they didn't, even if they all reversed their opinion, even if India's intellectuals decided tomorrow that the Electoral Commission of India truly is independent and has not become beholden to the government, even if they reverse course, India is still all going to be stuck with a ranking among the worst among actual democracies in the world, because the objective components are baked in.
Then it would bring into question these rating agencies, and not just VDEM, the others. How seriously should they actually be taken, or can they also then be used as instruments of foreign policy to browbeat or coerce a nation?
Ironically, it's VDEM that is the best of the indices that rates India the worst. The Economist Intelligence Unit, which seemingly just picks a number out of thin air and gives a country a rating, actually rates India much higher. And I think because they're aware that there is real democracy in India, and they're making a purely subjective expert evaluation. It's when we get to these objective but very badly designed indicators, VDEM is the key example of that. The Freedom House indices are also objective but questionably designed. They give a false sense of certainty. They give the idea that, look, on this mostly objective, highly methodologically sophisticated set of indices, the creator of VDEM went in an interview and said that VDEM was based on astronomer math, extraordinarily sophisticated mathematics. It's because of the high level of sophistication that people tend to trust VDEM, that people tend to trust Freedom House. And that trust is misplaced, because even though it may be very sophisticated, it is extraordinarily badly designed. And I say that as someone whose profession is studying international indicators.
Exactly. So, and that's a big point that you're making here on India Today, that the trust in VDEM is actually wrongly placed, or it's misplaced.
Well, the trust in a way is rightly placed in that this is an independent academic organization with independent grant funding from the European Research Council. This should be a first-rate ranking. The methodology is very sophisticated. They've simply messed up. They've just got it wrong. And take it from me, I always remind people I am not an India expert. I'm a rankings expert. I've come to India because I've seen it misplaced on the rankings, not because I have such deep knowledge of India. This ranking methodology is screwy. It's not designed to harm India. I really have to stress that. It is just very badly designed. And as a result, it does not differentiate. And they even admit they don't differentiate on certain subcomponents between genuinely competitive elections and sham elections in which one party is the only choice.
Okay, which brings me to the point, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, this is India's year of G20 presidency. The Prime Minister says, we are the mother of democracies. Now, and we are, I mean, given India's history, given India's past record, the fact that we've had free and fair elections, this report, the 2021 report and the elections that have happened in 2019 and so on, would give the emergency in India higher ratings than 2019.
Well, again, if you believe that the Electoral Commission of India was more independent during the emergency, and if you believe that the opposition in India today is more severely restrained than during the emergency, well, then you can trust these rankings. On the other hand, if you think that the emergency was a unique event in Indian history, never to be repeated, then I think you have to take the subjective component of these rankings with a grain of salt. But again, what's new in this research, we've known since August, we've known since my interview in India today in November, that the subjective components were flawed because the subjective components were based on individual people's opinions that really couldn't be trusted. What is new in this paper is the analysis that the objective components, so the things that we should be able to trust, we should be able to say we don't have to worry at least about the objective components, they can't be influenced. Those are just so badly designed. They're not designed to harm India intentionally. They're just so badly designed that India, which has real elections, gets a lower score on the two objective components than Vietnam, which is a one-party communist dictatorship, lower than Cuba, lower than the Palestinian Authority, which hasn't had an election in 30 years. India ranks lower on the objective components. And that's what's really new here, is the discovery that it's not just all about India's intellectuals giving India a bad rating. It's about the rankings themselves being so badly designed that India can't get a break.
In India's G20 presidency year, a report like this, does that damage India, or does that actually damage the institute and its flawed methodology?
I think there's serious problems with the methodology, and I've come to believe now that they're so serious that VDEM really has to start over. Now, it doesn't have to start over because India got a low ranking. Lots of countries are unhappy with their rankings. They need to start over because the methodology is so seriously flawed that we really can't take any of their rankings seriously, not just for India, but really almost for any country in the world. I mean, the idea that Hong Kong is something like 70th in the world for free and fair elections and much better than a country like India, it's just shocking. And that's not the result of an expert evaluation. That's the result of the perverse methodology embedded in the rankings.
Now, when you look at these rankings, and you also traveled through parts of India, what's your appreciation of the country vis-a-vis the rankings?
India, of course, is a highly successful democracy. I always call it the world's most extraordinarily successful democracy. Extraordinarily successful because it's cracked the code of how to run a democracy on a GDP per capita of less than $2,500 a year. No other country in the world has managed that. To find another country that's a democracy that has even 3 decades of free and fair elections, you have to look at countries that are 3 times as rich as India. So this is a real opportunity for India to do democracy education around the world. If someone is going to be the Vishwa Guru of democracy, it's not going to be the United States. We've seen that disaster in Iraq and Afghanistan and so many places. It's India that seems to have solved the question, how do you run a democracy in a poor country? And I'd love to see India giving technical advice to the world, not just on earthquakes, not just on development, but actually helping them learn how to run a democracy on a budget. That's what India does that no other country has managed to do.
I will let that be the last word on this part of the show. Truly, India, according to Professor Bibon, is truly the Vishwaguru of democracies, and there are lessons that the world can learn from India junking such ratings. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
All successful people worked hard, nothing comes easily.
Sometimes you need to just cross that mental barrier.
काफी प्रोसेस ओरिएंटेड मैं जब दोनों मेडल को ले रहा था और मैं बोल रहा था कि दो ही हमारे पास मेडल है इंडिया में और दोनों आज मेरे हाथ में हैं.
The very fact that you're opening the India Today conclave with a session on Olympic sport tells me that we've made progress.
The weather is certainly chilly here in Barcelona. In fact, it snowed here on day one of the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, something that doesn't usually happen during these days. But this is MWC. It's back, and it's back with a bang. In fact, last year it was subdued, obviously due to the pandemic. Before that, it was postponed and cancelled. But we expected this to be, well, not as grand and extravagant as it has been. Absolutely massive. This is genuinely the biggest, the latest and greatest in tech, all under one massive roof here in Barcelona. Of course, several themes here at MWC. 5G is, well, a theme from the previous years. 6G is being spoken about. And of course, with what's happening with ChatGPT, a lot of the stalls over here are talking about generative AI. And a lot of companies seem to want to really claim ownership of that space because they're saying that we have solutions in the generative AI space, be it from image, from text. There's all sorts of things happening here at MWC. Of course, there's also smartphone launches. This one being the Xiaomi 13 Pro, something we've been waiting for a long time on Tech Today, actually has a Leica lens on it. Those cameras cost nearly $20,000. You're getting that now on a smartphone. OnePlus has announced a phone with liquid cooling tech. That's a concept phone. These guys also have another concept phone where they have a massive lens attached to it on a 1-inch sensor. And that's not all. There's a 240-watt fast-charging Realme smartphone being announced as well, and all sorts of announcements in the AR, VR, and metaverse space. We thought it would be muted, given that, a lot of these brands haven't really shown up over here over the past couple of years for obvious reasons, but they're back and back with a bang. A huge participation from China, over 150 exhibitors, because restrictions have eased and everyone seems to be keen to come and explore the European markets as well. So much happening on the geopolitical front, and that's why we see increased involvement over here. 80,000 attendees, 2,000 exhibitors here at Mobile World Congress Barcelona 2023. Tech Today is going to be here on day 1, day 2, day 3. We're going to be exploring exactly what's happening at the most influential tech event of the year, so stay tuned.
Hello and welcome you with us here in Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. Economic growth slows down to 4.4% in the October to December quarter amid high inflation and weak demand. Manufacturing sector contracts by more than 1%. The government maintains a 7% growth estimate for the current fiscal. Eighth straight day of fall on the Lal Street. Energy and pharma shares dragged the Sensex down 326 points below 59,000. Nifty down 89 points. Adani Group stock rebound today after reports of debt prepayment next month and a favorable relook into the group companies by MSCI. Adani Enterprises closes up nearly 20% from the day's low. Microsoft founder Bill Gates visits the RBI in Mumbai, meets Governor Shaktikanta Das. The two hold wide-ranging discussions on financial inclusion, payment systems, microfinance and digital lending. From rollable tech to the world's first 3D tablets, we get you all the action from day 2 of the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Spain. The economy has slowed down sharply in the third quarter of the current fiscal. According to figures released by the government this evening, GDP growth rate slowed to 4.4% in the October to December quarter. This is in sharp contrast to 6.3% in the previous quarter and 13.5% in the April to June quarter. The sharp slowdown comes on the back of the manufacturing sector, which contracted by 1.1% during the period. The industry managed to register an improvement over last year, but the services sector also slowed down. The crucial agriculture sector grew 3.7%. The government has kept its growth estimate for this financial year unchanged at 7%, while revising the last year's growth to 9.1%. Business Today TV Managing Editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke to Shogata Bhattacharya of Axis Bank and Madan Sabnavis of Bank of Baroda on the latest numbers. Here's an excerpt.
On that, Shogato, to you first, 4.4% in the third quarter.
Slightly lower than what we had expected, 4.6, but that's okay because given the levels of uncertainty, it'll be the internals that will matter most. That's the GDP number. What the GVA number would be, whether it's 4.3 or 4.4 or whatever, which will be the key indicator for this. And on the other side, we are talking about the demand, the supply side, agriculture, industry, services. Where the number slowdown is coming in from the demand side, personal consumption, private consumption, government consumption, investment, etc., will be a key thing to watch out for.
Madan?
You see the impression, I've just looked at the numbers. It looks like that the GVA increase has been something like 6.6%. So we are talking of a slightly more impressive growth rate than what we had expected. And I think the service sector has delivered very well. So I think this growth number seems to be more in lines with what the RBI has projected. So to that extent, I think it's not really off track. And we, of course, had a number of around 4.6% for the third quarter. So this would be slightly lower than what we had projected. But as I mentioned earlier, I think this number does say that we're very well on track of getting this number of 6.8% for the entire year.
All right, and we have some more details that are coming in at this stage. The full year growth number seems to have been retained, and the versus number that we are seeing on the screen for the comparable quarter should be 5.4%, and the latest number is 4.4%. The whole year growth that is being spoken about, and I'll request my producers to bring that up, that estimate remains unchanged at 7%. Shogato, why would that be the case for a full year estimate to be maintained at 7%?
So again, we had actually expected a slight uptick to 7.1% given the numbers, because remember, these numbers are based on extrapolations of trends in the past. We still don't have the full year numbers. Q4 numbers are largely unavailable. So we were expecting a slight uptick in this to 7 point from the earlier 7%, the first advance estimates, now to 7.1% in the second advance estimates, based on the leading indicators that we track. There was a small jump in the agriculture numbers, in the mining numbers, in the electricity numbers, etc. So we had expected a slight jump, but overall, this is completely on track. Particularly given the slightly lower number, the 4.4% in Q3. So this is probably on expected lines.
Okay. Madan, as we get more details about the numbers, and we are trying to bring that up, you very clearly, just to recap for our viewers at this stage, third quarter growth at 4.4%, below most of the estimates that we were seeing. The full year estimate being retained at 7%, and as we get more details on the numbers as we put them up, agriculture growth at 3.7% versus 2.3% in the same period a year ago. More of those details are coming in. Madan, given this, coming back to you again, your thoughts about what's happening as far as agriculture is concerned?
Yeah, I think the agriculture number for the third quarter at 3.7% is more a reflection of the Kharif crop. It does not tell us about what is going to be the fate of the Rabi crop. So I think this is pertinent today because we are talking of extreme heat conditions which have developed, especially in the northern part of the country. And that's something which has the potential to affect the wheat crop. So I think there could be some kind of a negative surprise out there. So while the overall growth which the NSO is talking of is 7% for the year, we would still stick to the number of 6.8% for the entire year. And I think the difference would probably be accounted partly by the agricultural production, which could turn out to be lower. But I think when I look at these numbers, Siddharth, I think most of the sectors seem to be doing very much on expected lines. But I see a negative growth when it comes to manufacturing, the value added in manufacturing. So I think that is something which would, again, I would say if it was expected, the number would be on the lower side because of the fact that a large part of this is based on corporate results. And the corporate results for the third quarter did show that profits had actually come down. If you remove the BFSI and the IT sectors, if you remove the service sector, we actually were looking at profits coming down. And I think that's something which is getting reflected in terms of manufacturing output going down. Otherwise, I think the other sectors, especially the service sector, has been showing a lot of buoyancy. And I think the pent-up demand, which was reflected even in the PMI numbers all through, is finally also getting reflected in terms of the value addition numbers, which we see in front of us for the third quarter.
Some more numbers that I have now, viewers, and I'll just take all of you through those. Please bear with me. India, October, December, the third quarter, mining sector growth has come in at 3.7% versus 5.4% a year ago. The construction sector growth is at 8.4% versus 0.2% same period last year. The October-December GVA number growth 4.6 versus 4.7% a year ago. Manufacturing, which was just being spoken about, has degrown, is at minus 1.1% versus 1.3% the year ago. Farm sector growth at 3.7% versus 2.3% a year ago. The FY22 GDP growth estimate has been revised to 9.1%. That is the revision that has happened for FY22, as you all know. The second advance estimate for FY23 and the first, second and third revised estimates for 3 financial years have also come in. FY23 GDP growth is unchanged at 7, and the details really, Shogoto, I'm coming to you. Please share with our viewers, what do you make of the sectoral numbers that we have just read out?
So, the first remarkable thing is the revision in the FY22 growth number that you mentioned, 9%. So that's probably one of the reasons why the 7% instead of the 7.1% that we were talking about has actually come about, because the base effect is now higher, base effect of the previous year's growth, number one. Second, in terms of manufacturing, that we had a fairly good idea because a large part of that also comes in from the IIP, where we know that there has been a significant amount of weakness in the third quarter. The IIP numbers are actually also negative. So I mean, so that is something which is expected. Overall, industry, which is a combination of manufacturing, electricity, and mining, the two together, and the mining numbers that you have just said, it was 3.7. It's very strong. In electricity numbers too are relatively strong. So overall industry level growth will probably be around 2.2%. One of the reasons for the drop in the manufacturing segment is the fall in commodities prices.
The Reserve Bank of India should keep growth numbers in its sight when raising interest rates to battle inflation. According to Monetary Policy Committee external member Jayant Verma, the central bank's pursuit of its target of 4% inflation should factor in the additional mandate of supporting growth. As per the framework followed by the RBI and MPC, the stated aim of monetary policy is primarily to maintain price stability while keeping in mind the objective of growth. It prescribes an inflation target of 4% within a band of plus or minus 2%. The RBI has hiked repo rate by 250 basis points in the last 6 policies, and Verma feels that risks to growth now outweigh those on the inflation front. He was one of the 2 members who dissented against the 6-member committee's resolution to raise policy rates by 25 basis points earlier this month. Equity benchmarks traded lower again today, extending their losing run for the 8th straight session. The indices were dragged by energy, pharma, technology and metal stocks. Interest rate hike fears, sustained foreign selling and GDP data for the December quarter all kept investors cautious. The 30-share BSE Sensex fell 326 points to settle at 58,962, while the broader NSE Nifty moved 89 points down to close at 17,304. Among the top gainers, Adani Enterprises up about 14%, Adani Ports, Asian Paints, Britannia and M&M. Meanwhile, among the top laggards today, Cipla, Hindalco, Dr. Reddy's, ONGC and Reliance. Adani Group shares rebounded after reports that the group is prepaying some of its debt next month. Adani Enterprises was up more than 14%, adding 19,000 crores to its market cap. 4 other group companies hit the upper circuit of 5% in trade. Just 2 of the Adani pack were in the red. The rebound follows reports that the group plans to prepay share-backed loans worth $790 million by the end of March this year. This plan comes as the conglomerate seeks to polish its credit profile after the damning report by Hindenburg Research that eroded its fortunes. There seems to be no respite for Life Insurance Corporation of India and for its investors, with the insurance major slipping out of the top 10 list of the most valued companies in India. As my colleague Sakshi Batra explains, exposure to the Adani Group companies continues to bruise LIC, whose shares slipped to an all-time low of 566 rupees yesterday.
Well, that's right, Abha. LIC is out of the top 10 listed stocks on the Nifty by market capitalization, and this is because the shares of Life Insurance Corporation are hovering near its record low levels of 566, which it had hit yesterday. That's February 27th of 2023. Remember that LIC stock is now down 20% from January 24th levels from the time the Hindenburg Research report on the Adani Group was actually released. Remember that even though Adani Group stocks account for less than 1% of LIC's equity portfolio, the market has really severely battered the LIC stock amid the carnage that we have witnessed on the Adani Group stocks over the last 1 month. Now, as on January 31st, LIC's equity and debt holding in the Adani scrip stood at a little less than 36,000 crores. The value of its equity purchase was 30,127 crores. Remember that after a precipitous fall of the Adani shares, the value of its holdings has slipped below the cost of acquisition, and that has stoked a lot of concerns as well. LIC's market capitalization ranking has also now slipped to 12 from 6, which was at the time of the listing of LIC shares. Remember that the state-owned insurer's market value is now down to 3.65 lakh crore rupees as well. And with this, it stands at the 12th position in terms of market capitalization of the Nifty stocks, falling behind Reliance Industries, TCS, HDFC Twins, Infosys, ICICI Bank, HUL, ITC, even SBI, Bharti Airtel and Bajaj Finance also now. Shares of LIC, which were listed on the bourses on May 17th last year, are now trailing by about 40% against its own issue price of 949 rupees per equity share. Investors are now worried about the impact of LIC's business due to the negative sentiment created by the exposure to the Adani group. Besides, there is a constant overhang of the misuse of LIC as a white knight for the government disinvestment as well. Earlier in the day, I also spoke to market expert Nipun Mehta to find out what should be investor strategy on LIC now. Should one really look at adding or averaging the LIC shares at these record low levels or the near record low levels, or will the stock continue to give lackluster performance on the street? Listen in.
I think these are issues that come about largely when particular stock prices fall significantly. It's important to understand that all this is investing in equities. When the stock prices of any of these, forget the Adani Group stocks, but any of the other stock prices which were going up, nobody was complaining. Then why complain when the stock prices are going down? I mean, there was a time when a stock like ITC had gone into double figures, and LIC still had a significantly large quantum of ITC as well. Nobody was talking about. So I think investors need to understand that this is equity as an asset class. You will see ups and downs. Maybe to a small extent there was, to a very limited extent, I would think there was some concentration. 1% is not really, I mean, you can't even term it as concentration of holdings. But I think one needs to understand and appreciate that there's a mix of investments that are there as far as entity or organization like LIC is concerned. There's a fair amount of debt. There's equity that is there, and within equities there have been ups and downs. And this kind of an upheaval might as well result in maybe an extent of cleaning up of the portfolio or whatever extent. But I think this is something which investors probably need to take in their stride, and maybe this is something which is showing up as an opportunity to get into companies like these, stocks like these.
Let's take a very quick break. When we come back, we bring you all the latest from the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. It was day 2 at the Mobile World Congress 2023 in Barcelona. The biggest tech festival of the year is where most tech companies come up with their big launch and announcements. Until now, we've seen a couple of flagship phones like Xiaomi 13 Pro, Motorola's Riser being launched today. OnePlus announced its first foldable phone as well. Joining us is Ayush Alawadi with more details. from day 2.
From concepts to humanoid robots, cyber dogs, electric scooters, and of course, smartphone launches, which were closer to reality. It's been an action-packed day 2 at MWC. Let me try to round it all up for you. Of course, there's been smartphone launches. Realme with the GT3, a 240-watt fast-charging smartphone. Yes, it's the world's first 240-watt fast-charging smartphone. But what does that really mean for battery health? We will test that claim on Tech Today. OnePlus has a concept phone, which everyone's been talking about, but I'm not quite sure it's a game changer. It borders more on the gimmick category. I'll tell you why, because there's an LED backlight behind the phone, and whenever there's a liquid cooling mechanism which really does cool the phone, in their tests and their claims are up to 2 degrees Celsius, then that would help you in gaming and performance. But I'm not sure that concept will really make it to reality. Oppo had a huge booth here at the Mobile World Congress as well, but most of those products at that booth we've seen already, especially on Tech Today. You got an exclusive launch last week from London when we had the Oppo Find N2 Flip, which is now launching in India, pricing to be revealed soon. But this is just smartphone launches. There's so much more happening here at MWC. I really think in terms of being game-changing tech, we have from ZTE and Nubia a 3D pack. Takes any sort of content from 2D, converts it to 3D, uses this light field technology. When you're actually standing in front of it, it has 2 cameras using artificial intelligence, yes, the keyword of MWC AI, which then converts that content to 3D. It's an optical trick, but honestly, it is a sight to watch. If you actually consume that content, it could be a game changer, and that will be available globally, although it is going to be a China product which will be sold to international markets very soon, come April. That's not all. At the Lenovo Motorola booth, it looks like Motorola is all set to make a comeback very soon. When you're talking about concepts which could actually be a game changer, it was Motorola's rollable phone, the Motorola Riser. I'm going to play that out for you to see exactly what the Motorola Riser is all about.
Tata Motors has launched its first registered vehicle scrapping facility in Jaipur, known as Rewire, which means recycle with respect, re.y.re. The facility has a capacity to dismantle 15,000 vehicles per year. It's developed and operated by Tata Motors' partner Ganganagar Vahan Udyog, and they're going to be scrapping end-of-life passenger and commercial vehicles of all brands. The company plans to open more vehicle scrapping facilities across India.
India imports around 8 million tons of scrap steel annually. A typical scrapping center of 25,000 annual capacity can generate about 70,000 tons of scrap steel annually. About 50 to 60 scrapping centers can significantly bring down the demand for imported scrap steel, making India self-reliant. I am always insisting for use of alternative to steel in construction works. The energy cost and environmental regulations are also driving a move to increase use of scrap. Further, the vehicle scrapping policy will promote the establishment of organized setup for the scrapping and dismantling of vehicles and thereby generating employment. India has potential to become a scrapping hub of the entire South Asia region. We can import large numbers of old vehicles.
Wipro has announced a major reorganization to cope up with the rapidly changing macroeconomic climate. The IT major will reorganize its management and business units into 4 major categories with a global head assigned to each unit. The 4 new units will concentrate on enterprise, cloud, consultancy and engineering technology.
This evolution of our business lines will allow us to sharpen our focus on clients, simplify how we orchestrate internally and across our ecosystem, accelerate our speed to market. Streamline decision-making allows us to channel investments more effectively and more efficiently, and offer bigger and more exciting roles and talents development opportunities for our people. This new model is designed to take our growth to the next phase and advance our position as the trusted strategic partner to our clients. These are bold bets, the right bets for the future of our business.
Vedanta share price fell for the 8th straight day, falling 6.7% today. This comes on the back of news that the government is upset about the company's proposal to sell its international zinc assets. Highly placed sources have told Business Today TV that the government feels the sale will hinder and distort its plan to dispose its residual stake in Hindustan Zinc. The government still holds 29.54% stake in Hindustan Zinc, which it had divested to Vedanta in 2002. For more on this, we're joined by Business Today TV's Karishma Sudani.
Well, the government is actually upset with the company Vedanta for proposing and deciding in order to sell the international zinc assets, because it puts a spanner on the residual stake sale process of the government that in fact Deepam has been leading and was counting on in order to complete its disinvestment target for the current and the next year. What happens next is, as you see, Centre has already opposed. Ministry of Mining, which also had an internal discussion with Finance Ministry officials, including Deepam officials, has opposed this decision. Going ahead, Vedanta in its shareholder meeting, which is likely to be in 3 months from now, will raise this issue, and the centre, which has 3 directors appointed as the minority shareholders on its board, will oppose this decision. If the company decides to go ahead with it, centre believes that they'd like to take a legal route because this is clearly trying and stopping the whole disinvestment process, because government has been looking to sell 29% of its residual stake. They of course are looking to sell 5% of it in the initial first phase, followed by the rest. Centre also believes that this could be an issue. There could be an issue of valuation that Vedanta is probably not taking into account, and since this is a related party transaction, it needs to be transparent.
All right, Karishma, thanks for bringing us all those details. That's all the time we have on the show tonight. Thank you so much for watching.
So I think in general there is obviously much more digital advertising happening, and the platforms are becoming more active and influencers are becoming more active, because we do feel that this is going to shape advertising in the future in a very, very big way. So more than I would say, has it gone up or down, because the guidelines are very recent. I think what we can say is that just at an anecdotal basis, we are seeing a lot more influencers who are compliant. We are seeing the hashtags being used. We are seeing the paid partnership tags being used. So I think that's a great step, and we are definitely seeing more platforms also bringing in disclosure labels so that there is a native way to kind of disclose your material connection. So I think influencers are taking this whole thing, I feel, in a really good way, in a very positive way, and using disclosure, not with any kind of pressure, but I think as a voluntary choice that they are making, and I think that is really, really great news.
Absolutely. Like you said, there's been a rise in digital ads. Digital influencing marketing is the newest thing on the block. Where do you think this will go? Will it take over the revenue, the ad spends that we saw for TV ads? Will digital advertising be the biggest advertising field in ad?
If you see the growth that it has, I mean, it's already kind of inching towards television growth. So television still remains the largest, but digital is now a close second. And the rate of growth of digital is definitely higher. So I think, I think all media will continue to grow. So it's not as if, that you will actually see a decline in any particular medium. But yes, I think just in terms of percentage split, I feel that digital is likely to take over television in the next few years.
You are watching India Today.
Hello, you're watching India Today and I'm Aishwarya Paliwal. Let's start the show with the headlines. Manish Sisodia and Satyendra Jain quit as Delhi ministers. His 18 portfolios will be distributed amongst Kailash Gehlot and Rajkumar Anand. No
Supreme Court relief for Sisodia in plea against CBI. Top court tells him to approach the High Court. Meanwhile, Deputy Chief Minister has been grilled for allegedly 100 crore kickback via aide Vijay Nair. The GDP slows for third straight quarter at 4.4% amid high inflation and waning consumer demand. Uttar Pradesh cops probe gangster turned Neta Atiq Ahmed. Another Umesh Pal murder conspirator is pictured with Akhilesh Yadav. Samajwadi Party says he's a BJP worker. News that's just coming in. A big order has come from the Supreme Court on the protection for the Ambani family. The Supreme Court has ordered that the Ambani family should be given Z+ security throughout the country. The expense of the security will be borne by the Ambani family. Supreme Court says protection is not just restricted to the state of Maharashtra. My colleague Nalini Sharma is now joining me on the story. Nalini, this is a big order which is coming from the Supreme Court, very clearly saying that it's not just in the state of Maharashtra that the family will be given protection. Throughout the country, they'll be given protection. They'll also be given protection, once they, whenever they go out. And also, this will be Z+ protection that will be given to the family.
Yes, Aishwarya. In fact, if you remember, there were multiple PILs that were filed that were in fact seeking that the security, the Z+ security that has been granted to the Ambani family should in fact be revoked because they were private citizens. And after that, the Supreme Court had asked for the threat perception regarding the Ambani family from the MHA, a report on that. And in accordance with that, the Supreme Court's now passed this order, and they've said that the reason they are passing this order is so that all of the pending petitions across high courts in the country, they are put to closure immediately. And what they've said is that there is threat perception that has been assessed by the Mumbai police as well as the MHA. And keeping that in mind, the Ambani family should be granted Z+ protection, not just restricted to the state of Maharashtra, but throughout the country, because what they've said in their petition and during their submissions before the Supreme Court is that their network and their philanthropic activities reach every remote corner of the country, and there is also a threat perception when they're traveling abroad. In fact, what the Ambani family has told the Supreme Court is that they are at the risk of being targeted so that the country can be financially destabilized. So keeping that in mind, the Supreme Court's now asked the MHA to ensure that protection, Z+ protection, is granted to all of the members of the Ambani family, and they are the ones who will bear the cost for this protection, whether it's in the country or when they're traveling abroad.
Thank you, Nalini, for joining me with all those details on this story. A very big jolt to the Arvind Kejriwal government after two of his top ministers, Manish Sisodia and Satendra Jain, tendered their resignation. Now, these resignations are coming amid the storm over the CBI arresting Manish Sisodia as part of their investigation in the alleged Lekagate scam. The opposition, however, has rallied around Manish Sisodia. The opposition is now claiming that this is vendetta by the Narendra Modi government. Watch this report.
A big shake-up in the Delhi government. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal drops Manish Sisodia and Satendra Jain from his ministry.
अब मनीष जी को भी इस तरीके के फर्जी मामले में फंसाया गया है और दिल्ली के बहुत सारे काम जो हैं इसकी वजह से रुक सकते हैं। बजट है, G20 है, अन्य सरकार की प्राथमिकताएं हैं। तो ये फैसला किया गया है कि जो है इन लोगों ने अपना इस्तीफा टेंडर किया, मुख्यमंत्री जी ने उसको लिया है और जो है आगे की जो है ताकि काम जो है जल्दी हो।
The resignations of Sisodia and Jain came just an hour after the Deputy CM's attempt to get relief from the Supreme Court failed. A two-judge bench headed by CGI D.Y. Chandrachud refused to interfere with the CBI's arrest, saying it would set the wrong precedent. The court said there are enough remedies at Sisodia's disposal. The bench suggested he approach the High Court. With Sisodia staying in CBI custody, AAP has come out guns blazing at the BJP, claiming targeted attacks on the opposition by the Modi government. With the political showdown peaking, the BJP has come out with a new term for AAP: cut, commission, corruption.
मुझे लगता था कि कट और कमीशन एक ही पार्टी की विरासत है, हाँ? लेकिन आज तो कहना पड़ेगा कि 3C केजरीवाल जी की पार्टी के लिए भी बोलना पड़ेगा, कट, कमीशन, करप्शन।
अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की सरकार का नाम हो रहा है। अरविंद केजरीवाल की लोकप्रियता और आम आदमी पार्टी की लोकप्रियता देश के दूसरे हिस्सों में बढ़ रही। परेशानी यह है, यह मुकदमा पूरी तरीके से राजनीति के। आप बताइए, अगर मनीष सिसोदिया ने कोई घोटाला या घपला किया है, जो बीजेपी वाले कहते हैं 10,000 करोड़ की रिश्वत खा ली।
Opposition parties have rallied behind AAP with political leaders across the country hitting out at the Narendra Modi government.
देश में देखिए दम है ही नहीं, ये हम भी जान रहे हैं, ये जांच एजेंसियां भी जान रही हैं। अब कोर्ट को निर्णय करना है।
Kejriwal ji has already said the other day when he had come out to Matushri that people who are scared of people who are actually being targeted are those who are coming ahead speaking the truth very often. However, you can see a common pattern that the opposition parties are being harrowed and harassed constantly by the government agencies.
The Congress, which initially kept mum, broke its silence on Monday. Party leader Jairam Ramesh tweeted that agencies like the CBI, ED and Income Tax Department have become arms of the BJP.
बेरोजगारी है, तनाव और हिंसा का माहौल है, आप देख लो रोज क्या हो रहा है। ईडी, इनकम टैक्स, सीबीआई का आतंक है, जुडिशरी दबाव में है, इलेक्शन कमीशन दबाव में है।
The Liquor Gate probe has put a cloud on AAP. Can Arvind Kejriwal's party, formed on the plank of anti-corruption crusade, weather the storm? Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the CBI at the moment is also investigating Manish Sisodia's links with the South cartel. Now, sources have told India Today that a quid pro quo deal was struck with KCR's daughter and an Andhra Pradesh MP and his son. Now, to understand exactly what is the Manish Sisodia and the South cartel money trail, watch this report.
After Manish Sisodia, is Kalvakuntla Kavita Rao next? With Sisodia's arrest, the BJP is now predicting that another big political gun will be arrested next by agencies in the Delhi Liquor Gate. And that is BRC MLC, Telangana Chief Minister KCR's daughter, K. Kavita. With months to go for elections in Telangana, BJP is going all out to gun for Kavita's arrest.
अभिषेक बोनीपल्लू और बच्ची बाबू गोरंटा के खिलाफ, जो कि के कविता के चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बताए जाते हैं, उनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई अगर होगी और जो तार अगर जुड़े पाएंगे तो चाहे कितना भी बड़ा आदमी क्यों ना हो, अगर आप विपक्ष के मुख्यमंत्री हैं तो आपका परिवार करप्शन करे और बच्चा रहेगा, ऐसा इस निजाम में नहीं चल सकता।
But the BRS is also fighting back with all its might. Kavita's brother K.T. Rama Rao lashed out at the Modi government, accusing the centre of misusing agencies. A veiled message of support, perhaps.
తెలంగాణకు పట్టిన శని, తెలంగాణకు పట్టిన దరిద్రం ఏదన్నా ఉన్నదంటే ఈ భారతీయ జనతా పార్టీ అని చెప్పక తప్పదు. ఎక్కువ మాట్లాడినామనుకో, ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇట్లా మాట్లాడినా కదా, పంపినరా వెంటనే ఈడీని పంపినరి, సిబిఐని పంపినరి, ఐటీని పంపినరి, ఈయన సంగతి చూడుండ్రి. వేట కుక్కల్లాగా ఆయన కింద ఉన్న సంస్థలను ఉసిగొల్పి ఇవాళ ప్రతిపక్షాల మీద దాడి చేయండి, కేసులు పెట్టండి, వాళ్ళని ఇరికియండి, జైల్లో పెట్టండి అనే ఒక దిక్కుమాలిన పని తప్ప ఇంకో మంచి పని అయితే చేస్తలేడు ప్రధానమంత్రి.
देखिए, 2 घंटे के लिए अगर सीबीआई ईडी किसी के पास भी आती है तो देश का बादशाह बन जाएगा आज के ज़माने में। लेकिन लोकतंत्र नहीं है, सिर्फ विरोधी है अपने, इसीलिए उनको सताया जा रहा है, जेल में डाला जा रहा है। मैंने कल भी कहा कि आपके पार्टी में सिर्फ संत महात्मा और साधु बैठे हैं क्या, कि 10 दिन हिमालय और केदारनाथ से अप डाउन करते हैं मंत्रालय में, उनको नहीं हाथ लगाने की हिम्मत आप।
But why is the Telangana leader's name being dragged into a Delhi excise policy case? The allegations stem from accused turned approver Dinesh Arora, who named K. Kavita. She's been named in the ED charge sheet as well, which claimed that the BRS MLC was contacted by the accused, changed multiple phones and then destroyed these phones to get rid of evidence. But Kavita has dismissed all these allegations, calling it nothing but a witch hunt against her. Her former CA, Buchibabu Gorantla, has also been arrested by agencies in the case, spelling more trouble for her. KCR's daughter isn't the only one. YSR Congress Party MP Magunta Srinivasulu Reddy, his son Raghav Magunta and businessman Sharath Reddy are also accused and collectively have been called the South Group by the ED. From Delhi to Telangana to Andhra, the investigation into the Delhi excise policy has opened a political can of worms across the country. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, there has been a very big twist in the probe of the daylight murder that took place of Umesh Pal in Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. Now, the Uttar Pradesh police has uncovered the role of gangster turned politician Atiq Ahmed in this murder. Watch this report.
A key witness in a murder case is gunned down. The daylight murder of Umesh Pal outside his home in Prayagraj last week has shaken up Uttar Pradesh. The police investigation is pointing fingers to former SP MLA Atiq Ahmed. The gangster turned politician allegedly facilitated two conspirators to meet his brother Ashraf at the Bareilly jail to plan the murder. Police sources claim this was revealed and accused Sadakat Khan, another key conspirator in the case. Sadakat has allegedly confessed to meeting the shooters at the Muslim hostel in Prayagraj where he was living.
इलाहाबाद विश्वविद्यालय का जो मुस्लिम हॉस्टल है कमरा नंबर 36 यही है। इसी कमरा नंबर 36 में सदाकत खान रहा करता था और पूरी हत्या की साजिश इसी कमरे में की गई, ये आरोप यहाँ पर है।
Meanwhile, photos of Sadakat Khan alongside SP Chief Akhilesh Yadav has surfaced on social media causing a political uproar.
जब मुख्यमंत्री जी ने कहा कि मिट्टी में मिला देंगे तो अखिलेश जी को बड़ी तकलीफ हुई थी, आप सबने देखा होगा। बोलते हैं ये क्या किस प्रकार की भाषा है? अरे माफियाओं को, क्रिमिनल को कहाँ लेके जाएंगे हम लोग? उनको तो मिट्टी में मिलाना होता है ना, तो मिट्टी में तो मिला रहे हैं, तो आपत्ति किस बात की? मगर अखिलेश जी अब आप जवाब दीजिए, कितने क्रिमिनल्स को आपने संरक्षण दिया, आपकी पार्टी ने संरक्षण दिया?
The Samajwadi Party has denied Sadakat is their member.
तस्वीर किसी के साथ भी हो सकती है। कल जब हम लोग खाना खा रहे थे तो हमारी तस्वीर मुख्यमंत्री जी के साथ थी, और अगर मुख्यमंत्री जी ने अपने केस वापस न लिए होते तो सोचो आप क्या चला रहे होते। तो आज ये सोशल मीडिया का जमाना है, कोई भी आता है फोटो खिंचवाता है।
The Samajwadi Party also posted a photo of Sadakat Khan with a BJP MLA's husband, claiming the murder was a conspiracy by the Saffron Party to spark communal violence. The police on Monday shot down another accused, Arbas, who had a bounty of 50,000 rupees. The encounter comes just days after the Uttar Pradesh CM vowed to wipe out mafia from the state.
माफिया कोई भी हो, सरकार की 0 टॉलरेंस की नीति है और उन माफियाओं के खिलाफ मिट्टी में मिलाने का काम उनको हमारी सरकार करेगी, पूरी मजबूती के साथ उनसे निपटने का कार्य करेगी। लेकिन चोरी और सीना चोरी दोनों नहीं चल सकता।
The police are still on the hunt for the main shooters who killed Umesh Pal. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, in a bizarre incident, United States of Kailasa, the country which was constituted by controversial godman and raped accused Nithyananda, recently took part in a United Nations meeting in Geneva, where a representative claimed Nithyananda is being persecuted by India. Now, this is a mockery of the diplomatic proceedings. Take a look at this report.
These are the representatives of rape-accused Nithyananda's country, the United States of Kailasa. That's right, his cult island nation is called the United States of Kailasa, and all this while it's never been recognized as a legal nation. Until now. This woman seen here is Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda, who represented Nithyananda's nation at the UN meeting. Wearing saffron and gold jewelry, complete with a mang tikka and her hair dreadlocked, much like Nithyananda, this woman has repeatedly spoken on behalf of Nithyananda at global platforms. More pictures show these cultists posing with Fiji Islands representatives and then with Cameroon diplomats in Geneva, pushing their propaganda material with books and handouts. Rape-accused Nithyananda, who fled India, also tweeted his praise for the representatives at the UN. All of this sparking questions on whether the UN has actually recognized a country that so far many believed was nothing but a figment of imagination. Soon after their UN showing, Ma Vijayapriya Nithyananda also posted this video, reiterating the need to protect Nithyananda, who she called, believe it or not, Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism.
The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and Kailasa have gone through intense persecution and human rights violation for reviving the indigenous traditions and lifestyle of Hinduism. And he was even banned from preaching and exiled from his birth country.
It didn't stop there. The woman on your screens then went on to extol Nithyananda for his contribution to Hinduism, calling Kailasa a place of refuge for Hindus, and apparently has established embassies and NGOs in 150 countries.
Kailasa is the first sovereign state for Hindus, which is established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Nithyananda Paramashivam, and who is reviving the enlightened Hindu civilization and its 10,000 indigenous traditions of Hinduism, including the Adi Shaivite indigenous agricultural tribes, for which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is the leader as well.
As bizarre as all of this sounds, there's a serious question that must be answered. How is it that a man accused of rape and child abuse, who supposedly established a nation of his own, filled with cultists, being given a platform by the United Nations? Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, a Sydney University professor and American sociologist Salvatore Babones has exposed the major shortcomings in Sweden's Varieties of Democracies rating. Professor Babones, in a paper which has been exclusively accessed by India Today, has not only decimated the latest VDEM ratings of 2022, but has also questioned the methodology that has been adopted by the VDEM Institute. Watch this report.
Varieties of Democracies rankings are flawed, asserts a Sydney University professor after a detailed analysis of the VDEM 2022 report that claimed India had fallen to the 100th position as a democracy. Professor Salvatore Babones insists that there are very serious methodology flaws that lead to mischaracterization of democracies in this report.
It's what democracy really should be all about. Now, this report's being released March 1st as a launch report for the Indian Century Roundtable think tank. I hope you'll read it and take a look at it. It is a much more technical, statistical, methodological investigation of the most important of the three rankings, the VDEM rankings. It's not all based on an analysis of the text involved in describing the rankings. It is an analysis of the rankings themselves and of the statistical methodology behind it.
The American sociologist working at the Sydney University carried out a detailed analysis of the Varieties of Democracies Report 2022 brought out by the VDEM Institute in Sweden. The professor has faulted the report both on its objective and subjective sub-indices.
The result of these methodological quirks, almost all of the analytical power, the discretionary power in the VDEM rankings, comes from two completely subjective sub-indices, that is, from the freedom of association and freedom of expression sub-indices. Here, there's a lot more room for interpretation. It seems to me highly unlikely that we can take these subjective measures at face value. The result of all of this is that India, in effect, gets no credit for having an objective democracy, that is, a place where people can vote in genuine elections.
The VDEM Electoral Democracy Index, published in March by Sweden's Varieties of Democracies Institute in its 2022 report, based on the data of 2021, saw India fall to the 100th position as against the 65th position in 2014. But Professor Babones argues that the report suffers from serious flaws, giving a perfect score on the sub-index of elected officials to countries like Libya, Cuba, Belarus, Russia, Syria, and Vietnam. Among the 174 countries given a perfect score for universal suffrage, China, Hong Kong, Iran, North Korea, Myanmar, Palestine and Venezuela score higher than genuine democracies. Professor Bebonis says the methodology in these ratings is so flawed that according to these rankings, India's electoral system between 2019 and 21 was less free and fair compared to the height of emergency in 1976, when elections were suspended and more than 100,000 political opponents were imprisoned without trial. VDEM ratings are unable to differentiate between real and sham democracies, he insists.
The VDEM rankings, it turns out, have very serious methodological flaws that lead it to mischaracterize not only Indian democracy, but many democracies around the world. The VDEM rankings include 5 sub-indices of electoral democracy that don't really differentiate in many cases between sham democracies or even complete non-democracies like China, North Korea, and Cuba, and genuine democracies like India.
The study has also questioned the subjective aspect of the ratings, where India is ranked 119th in the freedom of expression, thereby indicating censorship in India like in Iran. Bureau Report, India Today.
It is time now for us to slip into a very quick break. More news coming up on the other side.
You are watching India Today.
India Today Conclave 2023, March 17th and 18th, New Delhi. Listen to Janvi Kapoor, Malaika Arora, Anita Sengupta, Abha Adams, Hajar Chena Ramani, Dr. Ruha Shadab. The India Moment.
Many who understand sustainability understand slow fashion is the way to go. So what's the problem? Slow fashion can be more expensive, and more often than not is expensive compared to fast fashion. But there is a solution. Reuse, repurpose. Alternatively, go for something called as a closet detox. You can sell a big label on a pre-loved fashion platform to make the planet a better one, so that all of that does not go into the landfill. What's more, you can even buy pre-loved clothing. Celebrities have now caught on to the pre-loved trend. Recently, Alia Bhatt, Deepika Padukone, Katrina Kaif and Anushka Sharma indulged in a closet detox, setting off a pre-loved revolution in India. While you give your closet a second life, remember you are also giving your planet another life. And with that, don't forget to reuse, repurpose, or alternatively, join the pre-loved revolution in India. In New Delhi with Vaishnavi Kaharwar, Chaiti Narula for India Today.
Watching India Today.
Now, India has largely been unfazed in the Border Gavaskar series so far. The men in blue have already retained the trophy and they will now take on the Aussies in the third test in Indore. The visitors are likely to make two changes, with Cameron Green and Mitchell Starc likely to come in for Pat Cummins and David Warner. Besides that, there will also be a change in the leadership, as Steve Smith will lead the side in absence of Cummins. As for Rohit Sharma's men, Indore presents an opportunity to take 3-0 lead in the series. While India looks settled in most of the departments, questions are looming large over the inclusion of KL Rahul, who at the moment has been stripped of his leadership role.
We talk about players going through a tough time. Anyone with potential will be given enough time to prove themselves. And being vice captain or being not vice captain doesn't actually tell you anything. At that point in time when he was the vice captain, he was probably the senior most, and his removal of vice captaincy doesn't indicate anything. As far as Gill and KL both are concerned, I mean, that is how they train, that is how they practice before any game.
A win in Indore seals India's place in the World Test Championship final, and the host will now aim for another clinical performance.
Throughout the series so far, India have always had their noses ahead of the Australians. Barring a few concerns like the lack of runs from the top order, India have had more positives. Another such positive awaits them here in Indore, as a victory will not only secure a series win for them, but will also ensure them of a place in the final of the World Test Championship. This is Rahul Rawat in Indore for India Today.
Now, Jasprit Bumrah will continue to stay away from competitive cricket, with reports suggesting that he could miss this year's edition of the IPL. According to reports, Bumrah has still not recovered from his back injury and the BCCI is treating his case on an urgent basis. The extent of Bumrah's injury is such that the option of a surgery is also being looked at the moment. Given this year's 50-over World Cup, which will be hosted by India, the BCCI is likely to take a decision in this regard very soon. The pace bowler was last seen in the national colours in September last year. That's all the time we have on this bulletin. Thank you for watching India Today. This is me, Aishwarya Paliwal, signing off.
You are watching India Today.
Armed with facts, she takes the news by its horns.
You think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories. From every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
You're watching In the Club. I'm Nabila Jamal. This is where we get you the best from the world of entertainment. First up, pictures of Desi girl Priyanka Chopra's upcoming spy series, Citadel, are out, and the action spy thriller show produced by Russo brothers will premiere on the 28th of April. Here's the complete story.
A new beginning. But as a trained operative, there's one thing I've learned that I can't let go.
Priyanka Chopra is back as a spy.
Always be prepared.
Don't move. It's done. After kicking some bad guys in her first American drama thriller series Quantico as Alex Parrish,
I had a feeling it was you. All this time, I knew you were AIC. I was not.
our very own Desi girl is all set to treat her fans with yet another spy thriller titled Citadel. PC took to social media to share the first glimpse of the key characters from her upcoming venture. She will essay the role of Nadia Sin, an agent who is deceased according to the files. Co-starring Richard Madden, the action-packed sci-fi series will also see a hint of romance between him and Priyanka. Helmed by Avengers fame ace director duo Russo brothers, Citadel is also being adapted in Hindi by Raj and DK and will be headlined by Varun Dhawan and Samantha Ruth Prabhu. It was in December last year when Priyanka announced the wrap of a much-anticipated outing and captioned the post, "It's a wrap on Citadel." Phew, a whole year of doing the most intense work during the most intense time. It could not have been possible without this incredible lot of people. Priyanka has been proving her merit in Hollywood for quite some time now. Rather, she's actually ruling it. She also has a couple of other biggies lined up for release, including Love Again, co-starring Sam Hugan and Celine Dion.
Oh my God, you just got yourself a date the normal way.
She thinks I am interested. But if I tell her, she'll never speak to me again.
I was looking forward to this. I just felt like I knew you or something.
Do you think you could fall in love with someone just through their words?
I think you're very cute.
The more I get to know her, the better I like her.
And what the fans love equally as much as a spy thriller is seeing PC in a romantic drama.
You know, I'm just wearing my dead boyfriend's shirt and texting his old number.
This James C. Strauss directorial is exactly that and is all set to hit theaters on 12th of May.
I miss you so much. There's an aching inside of me.
Do you have a question for me?
Yes, Mr. Young. Do you really believe in all these things you sing?
You obviously know nothing about it.
What?
Love.
Meanwhile, Priyanka was last seen in the widely famous Matrix franchise titled The Matrix Resurrections, portraying the role of Sati in the sci-fi film, alongside Keanu Reeves, Jada Pinkett Smith and Carrie-Anne Moss.
Hello, Neo.
I know you.
I tried to keep my eye on you.
Why?
We met a long time ago.
Back home, Priyanka also has Farhan Akhtar's Jile Zara in her kitty, co-starring Alia Bhatt and Katrina Kaif. And with this interesting lineup of projects, Priyanka Chopra continues to slay both the worlds of showbiz and across genres. From action-packed spy thriller
blot her tears.
It would be weird to give her tissue.
to a romance drama, she surely knows how to switch gears when it comes to acting with perfection.
For 3 years, I've called this my home. A new life of peaceful serenity. A tranquil sanctuary full of beauty, love, and the simplest of pleasures.
With Gyanisha Malik, Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
2 years since you passed, and I still can't believe it.
Who is sending me these texts?
Every morning I open my eyes hoping I'll still see you.
Because when the sun comes up,
maybe we just take it a little slower. Yeah.
So filmmakers in the Indian film industry have often secured the rights to hit films in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, only so that they could remake them with a twist. However, the box office performances of Kartik Aaryan's Shehzada and Akshay Kumar and Imran Hashmi starrer's Selfie has really proved that audiences really prefer something different. In fact, their mood has changed certainly, and remakes doesn't seem like the right formula anymore.
Filmmakers in the Indian film industry have often resorted to remaking successful films in the hopes that audiences would flock to a theatre. However, recent releases such as Kartik Aaryan's Shehzada and Akshay Kumar and Imran Hashmi's starrer's Selfie, which are also remakes of Allu Arjun's Ala Vaikunta Puramalo and Prithviraj Sukumaran starrer Driving License, have turned out to be box office duds. And cinephiles will be hoping that this could bring an end to the remake culture in Bollywood. The box office success of several big-budget films in Bollywood has been on shaky ground, with audiences rejecting remakes of South and Hollywood movies lately, and the Hindi film industry losing its grip on the audience due to the lack of originality. Let's take a look at some disastrous Hindi remakes which tanked.
हम अक्सर सोचते हैं कि हर कहानी के सिर्फ दो ही सिरे होते हैं, अच्छाई या बुराई.
Hrithik Roshan and Saif Ali Khan collaborated with filmmaker duo Pushkar Gayatri for the Bollywood version of the Tamil hit Vikram Vedha. The film, which was made on a massive budget of 175 crore rupees, approximately grossed over 78 crores at the box office. Whereas R. Madhavan and Vijay Sethupathi starrers' lifetime collection was over 58 crore rupees at the box office, but was made on a relatively lower budget.
कुछ लोग विश्वास नहीं करते, पर जिंदगी में चमत्कार होते हैं जी.
Amir Khan and Kareena Kapoor Khan's starrer Lal Singh Chaddha crashed out of theatres with a lifetime collection of 58 crores approximately in its domestic run. The film was a remake of Tom Hanks's hit film Forrest Gump.
क्या होता है? मैंने नहीं पता कितने लिखा है सब, किसने लिखा है और क्यों लिखा है जो लिखा है.
जब हमारे पिताजी कैंसर के लास्ट स्टेज पे थे और मेडिकल वाला पैसे के बिना दवाई देने को तैयार नहीं था, हमने हथियार उठा लिया.
The Akshay Kumar and Kriti Sanon starrer, which is a remake of the 2014 Tamil film Jigar Tanda, turned out to be a box office dud and ended up collecting over 72 crores. Reportedly, the film was made on a budget of 180 crore rupees and was panned by critics.
मुझे भाई नहीं, गॉडफादर बोलते हैं.
मुझे 500 रुपए चाहिए विद्या.
तो जितना मांग रहा है उतनी कमाई है नहीं.
मुझे पता है तुम्हारे अकाउंट में.
After Kabir Singh, Shahid Kapoor picked yet another Telugu film for a remake. Shahid Kapoor's sports drama Jersey ended up doing poor business at the box office with a lifetime collection of 19 crore rupees, approximately, despite good reviews. The Telugu version, meanwhile, collected over 50 crores.
Physical का compete चलेगा.
An official remake of the Spanish movie Mirage, Taapsee Pannu's starrer Dobara turned out to be a huge disappointment. The sci-fi thriller's lifetime collection was over 5 crore rupees at the box office.
बॉडी कहाँ दफन है?
कहाँ मिलेगा नहीं?
तुम्हारा माइंड इधर उधर फैले डार्ट्स जोड़ रहा है।
हम मिडिल क्लास फैमिली की लाइफ ही प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन जब प्रॉब्लम फैमिली पे आती है ना, तो एक निकम्मा ही काम आता है।
From poor reviews to a low box office collection of approximately 1.5 crores, the Shilpa Shetty, Abhimanyu Dasani and Shirley Sethia starrer washed out from theatres within a few days of its release.
जीत तो मैं तभी गया था जब मैंने सोच लिया।
The film was a remake of Nani's Telugu flick Middle Class Abbai, which had collected over 69 crores. With Snigdha Shweta, Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
₹10 పెట్రోల్ ధర పెరుగుతుందంటే అర్ధరాత్రి పెట్రోల్ బంక్ బయట 6 కిలోమీటర్ క్యూలో నిలబడతాం. అలాంటిది మా ఫ్యామిలీ జోలికి వస్తే.
Now, Akshay Kumar was once hailed as a box office king, and his films often managed to enter at least the 100 crore coveted club. But his purple patch seems to be now over, with back-to-back box office duds. Akshay's latest film, Selfie, has ranked, at this point we believe that it's just raked in 10 crore rupees merely the opening weekend. His lowest collection in a decade so far. So where did Akshay go wrong with his film choices? Let's find out.
Between 2016 to 2019, Akshay has had several hits at the box office.
बताता हूँ, इन्होंने मेरा स्पर्म इनके वहाँ भेज